to get in front of new opportunities. Others will share that maybe they feel they spend their time producing quotes and proposals for buyers that just disappear. People get caught up in price discussions at the 11th hour and feel they have to give the show away in order to bring people over the line. Whatever your sales challenge is, pop it in there into chat if you can, or we got stuff coming up into chat there, or pop it onto a piece of paper if you're shy. You choose, okay? But let's dive into it and have a little look at one of the things we know with buyers and sellers is that most roadblocks that occur in our selling situations and that we face and evolve because of the interactions with our buyer, and are absolutely nothing to do with your product or your service. Think about that for a moment. The stalls and objections you're getting are nothing to do with your product or service, and probably mostly to do with the interactions that you're having, that you're in control of with your buyer. So let's take a little look at that and look at what happens. What is this buyer-seller relationship that I'm talking about? So again, your piece of paper, you don't have to share this, but I want you to take these steps. These are 5 steps that typically we see. We have companies come from us from all over the world. I work with companies from all over the northeast of England. And most of the time when salespeople come to us, successful salespeople that come to us, they follow these 5 steps. I want you to put them in order of what you think, not yourself, but a traditional salesperson would follow. I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to put them in your order. Okay, let's take a little look at these then. And by the way, full disclosure, before I became involved with Sandler 7 years ago as a client and then as a trainer, I spent 18 years selling, and I used to sell this way. So it's not a totally flawed system. You can make sales this way, but I'm going to talk to you about why it might make your life a little difficult. But first step, you've probably got this, needs analysis. Step 1 seems to make sense. We'll go in, we'll ask some open-ended questions. Step 2, once you know the needs, once you know a little bit about them, to come back and make a presentation or proposal, fairly standard in terms of what you would see a traditional salesperson do. Once, of course, we presented and proposed, I was always taught when I was at Coca-Cola or I was selling health club memberships, ask for the sale, right? You presented your stuff, you've done the work. The least you can do is ask your prospect if they want to buy or not. And this is where it starts to get a little rocky, because then naturally, buyers always say yes, right? They say yes straight away. No, they often come with their price objections or their time objections or their who they've got to go and ask objections. These are the types of objections that sometimes you might get, but this is the step in which traditionally a salesperson is going to start to handle those objections. And then the last step, I was always taught, be persistent, Simon, right? Follow up. Yeah, make sure you follow up those leads who haven't bought and you're not quite sure when they're going to buy. So that's a traditional, typical seller order. Quick question, and again, go to chat. What are the fundamental problems for traditional salespeople when they follow these 5 steps? As I said, it works. Yeah, you'll make sales. But what are the fundamental problems with doing this? When we start to look at it, some of the fundamental issues, if you think about this in your world, where does it slow down with your prospect? Where do things start to slow down? Does it slow down when they want all of your information at the first half? Or does it slow down once they've got your information and now it's time for them to make a decision? So that's the first question. Look in your own system. Where does it slow down for you? Secondly, where do all what we call the defects come up? If you're manufacturing something, if you want to find out about the defects of something, do you want to find it out after you've manufactured and shipped 1 million units out to your customers and they discover there's defects and there's problems? or do you want to find it out on computer-aided drawings? The problem we have in sales is often we don't find out the defects until the second half. And now you've invested all of that time, all of that effort, all of that expertise in your presentation proposal, but then your prospect starts to share the problems that they're having and the objections that they have. Third question is, how many people out there have bought something? How many of you are buyers? Yeah, we all bought something in the past. We've all spent the last 20, 30, 40 years buying stuff. But guess what? The number one fundamental issue with this problem is that we're so experienced as buyers. We've seen this system before. We know what happens when the seller starts to do the needs analysis, the propose, the close, the handle objections. So guess what? As buyers, and you guys are no different, by the way, let's not get into the whole buyers are liars thing. They are, right? But they're no different than you and I. The buyer has their own system in place. The buyer's seen the seller system 1,000 times. It's the main issue with the selling system. So same thing, just take 30 seconds, put these buyer steps in order. Okay. Let's have a little delve in. Let's have a look. Step one of the buyer system. You guys probably have this. Express interest. Step one and step two, I'll put them together. Has anybody noticed in terms of step one and step two, when your buyer is in that early stage, they're showing a lot of enthusiasm? Yeah, I want you to start to notice when you think about the buyers who show the most enthusiasm, your prospects, are they the ones who buy? Probably not. Is what we know, that there's a reason why in the very beginning a buyer is acting extremely motivated, is telling you all the things you want to hear. When you hear the things, and we're really interested, we're looking into this, we need to act fairly quickly. Can you come and see us in the next few days? Yeah, you guys probably heard that speech. Why do they do this? Well, this is the key step, guys. I want you to write these two words down because the whole buyer system is geared around it. The whole buyer system is geared around free consulting. Free consulting. They want to obtain your information, but they don't want to pay for it. They want to get all of your information. You guys have got a lot of people on this call. There's a lot of expertise on this phone call. You guys know your stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they want that's valuable to them. But the question to ask is, why is it valuable? When you give them this information, what do they do with it? Well, start to think about yourself now as a buyer. And I know you guys have done this. Yeah? When we get the information, the proposal, the presentation, the quote, or whatever it is, here's a story from a training session I did where a lady in the back of the room was training a company. We did this and she smiled. And at the break, I went to see her. I said, why were you laughing when we did that piece about free consulting? She said, because in our company, if ever we have to change an existing supplier or we want to bring someone new on board, when that contract is there for renewal, if it's more than £1,000 in value, we have to have 3 quotes on file before we can do it. I said, even if you know that you're not changing supplier, but it's just a renewal, she said, even if we know, we've got companies that we've worked for 10 years. Every year we have to go through this process. So think about that. There's 2 companies out there every time this happens that are doing quotes and proposals. They've got 0 chance of winning the business. So your buyer system is geared around, they want all of your information. They want it to beat up the existing incumbent for price. They want it to beat up and compare with other proposals they're getting. They want to compare the spec of other proposals. So this is valuable stuff to them. And all they have to do in order to get all of your information as a buyer is say, Rachel, show me what you got. And our typical salesperson will throw up all of their information all over the place because it makes them feel good. Next step of the buyer is now they've got all your information. Who's heard this speech? Rachel, Really, really appreciate what you've done. Wow, you really, really know your stuff. Your stuff is really fantastic. Here's what I'm going to have to do. We're just going to move a few things around. I've got to go and speak to a couple of people. Can you give me a call next week? And what the buyer has done there, you may recognize that speech. What the buyer's done there is done two things. They've been really nice to Rachel. Yeah, Rachel likes it because not many people are very nice to Rachel in the sales world. So she loves that. Yeah. Second thing is I've now lied about what's happening next. The reason why I'm nice is because I might want to come back to Rachel for some more free consulting. Yeah. The reason I'm lying about the next step is think about the seller system. If I start to give Rachel objections, she's a killer salesperson. She's going to handle them, make me feel uncomfortable. I can get rid of Rachel just by being nice and leave the door open for more free consulting and get the price down of my existing supplier another day. Okay. Last step. Our prospect then goes into, we call it hide mode, disappear. My belief is it's easier to get a prospect out of the witness protection program and find them from there than it is to find a prospect who doesn't want to be found. Who's got hands up now? Who's got a prospect right now in hide mode? You're trying to contact them and they don't want to be contacted. They're not answering your calls. They're not answering your emails. And you thought, wow, when you presented to them, this is coming in. I'm going to close this sale. Happens all the time. So step 5 is they'll disappear. They'll come back out, by the way, when they're ready for more free consulting. So take a little look at this, is what we call the buyer-seller dance. I'm just going to be completely quiet for 30 seconds. I'm just going to ask you a question. Where do you get sucked in to this buyer-seller dance? Where's your piece where all of a sudden you find that the buyer is in control and getting sucked in for you? Just have a look by yourself. I'm going to share something with you that regardless of, we work with enterprise companies, Fortune 500 companies, FTSE companies. We work with local small SMEs. The biggest one of all of these is that people are really, really fed up of writing quotes and proposals for people who don't buy. They can spend, I know some companies spend 2-3 days writing proposals and quotes. There's a lot of expertise, a lot of time goes into it. So the obtain information piece is something that really, really kills a lot of company. Think if you do that, how much time you would get back if you never wrote another quote or a proposal again, or you never presented to somebody unless they made a decision. How much time would you get back? And what we know is that if you like, a willing buyer and seller enter the left-hand side of the screen, but on the right-hand side, a nicely educated buyer, but a very frustrated salesperson will leave. So think about in your selling interactions. Remember that the stalls and objections you're getting are probably nothing to do with any facet of your product or your service. Who's leading the dance? Is the buyer in control or you in control? If the buyer's in control, where do they take control? Let's go back a step. Where does the buyer take control for you? For some, when we walk into a sales meeting and you sit down with the buyer and the buyer says, right, show me what you've got. I've got 15 minutes. The buyer is immediately in control and it's over. You're straight into this buyer-seller dance and you can't control how to get out of it. So quick touch on how do we retain control? How do we focus and do things a little bit differently? As I said, we've only got a limited amount of time. I've got less than 5 minutes left. So, but one of the things we say is that in the medical world, let's pop this into chat. Come on, guys, let's warm the chat up. In the medical world, prescription before diagnosis is called what? In the medical world, prescription before diagnosis is called, what do we call that? What is it? If a doctor prescribes before they diagnose properly. Okay, first one up, Kate, well done. Yeah, best guess, Nick. Malpractice is the precise one, but yeah, it's guesswork. It's guesswork. Keep going, guys. Malpractice. Good stuff. So think about this now. Translate this into the sales world. Guesswork. We wouldn't necessarily call it malpractice in sales, would we? But all too often, what we find is salespeople charge into a meeting. They listen to the needs of the prospect for 10 minutes. Remember, they don't trust us to start with. They don't typically trust that they hold the cards close to the chest. So they're not really telling you what's going on. You then rush off to do a presentation based on information they've given you that isn't very, very accurate. It isn't the depths of what their problem is. So they rush to what we call fulfillment. Fulfillment is your close, it's your presentation. That's step 6 here. What you then start to hear are things like, if we miss step 3, the pain step, that's the commitment step. Well, we think, we think it's interesting, but we're going to put things on hold for a while. Yeah. Or you might hear things like, you know what, we'd love to do it, but money's a bit tight. We haven't got in the budget right now. We need to move a few things around budget-wise. If you're hearing budget, money, last minute, can you discount it and we'll do it kind of questions, you're not qualifying properly. And then the third step, decision step. If you're hearing things like, we need to go and speak to the board members, we need to go and speak to our partners, I need to go and speak to other people in the business. We're not sure if this is the right time. We're going to do this maybe first quarter next year. That sits in step 5, decision-making process. So before we're able to prescribe a solution, it's important that we know, do they have a compelling emotional reason, pain? Are they willing and able to invest the money, the time and the resources, budget? And what's their decision-making process look like? And are we talking to the right people? And are they prepared to make a decision in a time frame that makes sense to us? Once you have all those things, then you can do a presentation, but only for a decision. And then you don't end up with people in witness protection. Okay. So that kind of rounds it off. So let's have a little think from your perspective. Does that help you to think a little differently about selling? And let's go to chat. What's one action based on what I've shared there that you could take in the next 30 days that would help you maybe save time, feel better about selling, or make more sales? What's one thing you could do? Okay, feel free to commit that to chat over the next few minutes if you want to. But our company's Sandler Training. If I think Fran's going to put some contact information in the chat, and if you do want to get hold of me, feel free to drop me an email or follow me on LinkedIn. We post a lot on LinkedIn. But thank you, Rachel, for inviting me along today. Feel free for any, I think we're doing questions at the end, Rachel, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're doing questions at the end. I'll save that. We'll have a bit of an open forum. We will stop recording when we do the questions, so you can ask some more pertinent questions, I suppose, because we will stick this up on YouTube as a bit of a training session. So yeah, thank you, Simon. I need to go and share my screen now. So bear with me a second. Screen. Okay, so I'm just going to move everybody off my screen onto my second screen. So moving on from Simon's fantastic presentation, not sure if I can beat that, but we're going to go on to the marketing side of things in terms of sort of the challenges that you face when you're trying. A lot of people following our podcast always brand sales and marketing under the same umbrella. They certainly are not the same job. As you can see from Simon's presentation earlier, there are a lot of things that go into a sales presentation when you're speaking. It's a very different skill set. So we're going to look at that. Just a bit about me. That's my background. So I've worked in sort of sales and marketing and events for the last sort of, I suppose, a bit longer, probably nearly 20 years now of sort of wandering around, sort of hopping around. I guest lecture at Leeds Beckett University as well, on to the media and comms students on the undergraduate program. So there's a kind of getting used to the presentation side of stuff, which is great. So just a bit of background about me for those of you that don't know me. Just a little bit about SHOO. We are a digital marketing and advertising agency specialising in PPC, but we've got quite a lot going on in terms of, we have a digital conference every year, obviously not happening at the moment because of COVID, but Digital U, run a more local event in the town that we operate in called the Oakley Social, an opportunity for business owners to meet each other. We are very big on supporting undergraduates and colleges and the universities in West Yorkshire, called the SHOO Academy, and we're very much about giving back to charity. So we run our charity fashion show as well, which is Fashion Fiesta. So moving on in terms of when I speak to a lot of clients, when they come to us, they're wanting a lot of, obviously, sort of social media marketing and advertising. A lot of the time I get the question, oh, well, I just want a bit of brand awareness. Well, what does that really mean? And actually, really, they want the acquisition of new customers. So going into what Simon's been talking about is actually they really want sales. And when you go out in terms of what is your goal with your social media marketing, it's all well and good putting an organic post out on LinkedIn or Facebook, but if you're not actually measuring and tracking everything that you're doing, then it's a completely pointless exercise that you're doing. So always measure and test, but we'll dive a bit deeper, but always set yourself a goal with your campaign that you're looking to lead into. Okay, now as a marketer, you're kind of expected to do all of this. Be a behavior psychologist. So you've got to understand how to write for your target audience. You've got to be a graphic designer to kind of target those people that you're wanting to talk to as well. You've got to become this storyteller and visual storytelling, all on social media as well. So social media manager is really a job that needs to be broken down a lot, because all of a sudden you've got to be really creative. And then you've got to be a data analyst, sat there measuring traffic, how many leads are you getting, conversion revenue and click-through rates, and then the vanity, what we call our vanity stats, rate, likes, comments and shares. Suddenly you've got to be a project manager because you've got to manage all those budgets, have a good understanding of an Excel spreadsheet, and then you've got to be the customer service person. I will share these slides out because there's some good stuff from Brené Brown, if anybody sort of follows her. She's got a nice little story there to sort of dive a bit deeper if you wish, because we've only got 20 minutes today. So yeah, so they're just sort of things that your experience, degree, placement, your part-time job, whatever level you're at, that you're expected to do all of this, and you certainly can't do all of that. A lot of the personality traits: problem solving, internal comms, adapting. You probably feel a bit like this, and some of you I know are running businesses on this call. That attention to detail, and suddenly you've got to be a team because you've got to talk to your sales team, and that's vital, because marketing and sales don't generally talk to each other. There's always that friction between the two teams in terms of when they're sending leads to the sales team. Don't know if anyone's come across the customer journey map. This is actually a real life customer journey map for our buyer persona in our business, buyer persona 1. So this is where the red basically means stuff that we're not doing, the amber that we're partially doing, and the green is yes, we're on it and we're all over it. Naturally, as a digital advertising agency, we would really work on the green stuff, which is all very much digital. Now, as you can see, you need to mirror digital and physical touch points. You can't, it all needs to be joined up. For those of you that have come from an academic background, you may be familiar with RACE, which is Dr. David Chaffney's strategy around marketing. Basically, RACE means reach, act, convert, and engage. And as you can see over here, you've got your physical touch points, which are really important. They still need to be done. So there needs to be a blend of traditional marketing and also digital marketing. Don't forget, it all mirrors and works together in harmony. Now this bit, because we identified this earlier this year, this has now gone to green. So we've got someone supporting our PR. This is something we haven't really worked on yet, but obviously naturally we will be a lot better at all the digital stuff because of our skill set within our team. But also it's really important to build those relationships, what Simon was talking about earlier. When you go and sit with a prospect, sometimes that word of mouth marketing, which we always forget about, is actually crucial to your business, because it actually makes that sitting down and talking to someone a lot easier if someone has already used your business. And we always forget this. So things like networking, or just, you know, when you're talking to a client, or perhaps a current client, asking them, who do you know who could help, you know, who work well with us, and asking that question. It's really tough question to ask, because it's like asking them for a referral, but it works. And you've just got to sit down and bite the bullet. And my business partner, Chris, is really good at asking that question to our current clients. This flow, map it out. It's really good. I've got a template that you can use. If I can happily send that out to you. It is a big sort of, I suppose, a big task for you to do, whether you're in marketing or sales, or work with your sales team, because there's more things that you can put into these docs. You don't actually have to follow this. This is just stuff we do and we think is important to our particular business, but it will be different across different industry sectors. And then have a look and actually think what is important to us. And these are just obviously things that we think that are important to SHOO and our growth. And it's a really good exercise to do. It's really important. So the race thing, I'm going to tip it on its head a little bit, because obviously marketing isn't just about talking to the sales team, but actually talking to HR, talking to customer service, talking to research and development, if you've got an R&D team, or actually just talking to your colleagues who also work in marketing, but you might not sometimes sit there and you're a bit siloed and you forget to talk to the rest of your team members, and always like think, well, actually, what would they do? Have they got a different idea? So it's really important that you can extend your efforts into those, because everyone's got an opinion, and that's crucial to kind of help in identify kind of your target market and working on your buyer personas. It all knits together, and it's all about having a joined up business, and that's key. We use something called the ADA model when we build any of our advertising models. So it is based on the RACE model. It's just called ADA when you start to come to do any copywriting. Basically, this fantastic graphic totally highlights what it all means. So it's awareness at the top of the funnel. So it's about educating your buyer to begin with before they even make a decision. I think there is a big saying out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but we love buying stuff, but we hate being sold at. So it's about educating people in your product. I've seen so many ads where they just literally go straight in for the kill with ads, buy this, buy that now. And remember, if you go back to Simon's model in terms of the buying process, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So educating people helps to warm up those people before they actually hit the sales team. And it drives traffic to your website. So it does support. And that's where, as a salesperson and looking at it from the other side, not a marketeer, it's quite frustrating when you try and you get in front of the right person, but actually the messages are going out and they're not the right ones to your audience. So make sure, that's why it's really important that sales and marketing work together as a team, but they are very much a different skill set. And it's building this funnel, so moving them through the stages So TOF means top of the funnel. Middle of the funnel is MOF, and that's where you nurture and build that trust with people. So go back and remarket to them. Hugely important. Don't sell at them at this stage because it is marketing. It's all about educating, getting them to come back to your business. And then once they've kind of got that relationship with you, they might have signed up to a email nurture sequence, and they might be signed up to a subscription with you already. Actually going back and doing that bottom of the funnel where this lead generation, get them to take action. Once they apply, then that message then has to go to somebody in a sales team. Where do they go? That's probably the key question. We worked with a manufacturing company based in the UK, and on their website they had no idea where their contact us form went to. Big downside, because they're going to ask you, that managing director of that business is like, what's my conversion for this month? And if you're as a marketeer, if you're driving traffic and sales leads to the website and they're filling out a form, but the salesperson isn't picking them up at the other end, then that's a bit disappointing. So make sure you actually work out what's happening on your website and where those forms are going to. Is someone actually picking up those sales leads? Because they're ready for a salesperson to pick up and then go through what Simon has talked about earlier. And there's different types of leads in sales. So a lot of the time, a lot of agencies just say clicking onto a website is a sales lead. That, in my opinion, is not a sales lead. That is what we class at SHOO as a marketing qualified lead, an MQL. So someone who's taken interest, taken that desire, I suppose they've gone to the 2 stages, but they're not quite ready to buy from you yet. The actual SQL is a sales qualified lead, and that is when they actually physically take action on your website and actually send that inquiry, whether it's picking up the phone, whether it's sending a message via your contact form on your site, or literally coming in and having a physical meeting. We've had some people do that. Now COVID's disappeared, we get people just walking and knocking on our door because they're just out. We've got a lot of businesses in the area that just want to come and talk to people because I haven't seen people for a long time. They don't want to just jump on a Zoom call anymore. So it's really important that when you're measuring and tracking any of your campaigns, is to be able to decipher between an MQL and an SQL, because at the end of the day, your sales team don't want marketing qualified leads. They really want that bottom line. They want that conversion. Salespeople are hungry people, I'm sure. So they want to make money. And the SQL is more important for them. So make sure it's the right type of lead. When I worked in business development myself, I was given very much MQL leads on this list to call, and these people hadn't even heard of us. And I was so embarrassed calling all these people, and they were the wrong type of leads because they were MQL leads. So they had no intention to buy. And because it was such a big company that I'd called, there could have been anybody sat on the website, literally like just browsing for holidays because it was in the hotel industry sector. So the AIDA model, Fran's got some, she's just shared a really good blog post to dive a little bit deeper because we don't have that time at the moment. But we have got a full book of how to kind of use the AIDA model, and there's lots of information on our site to go through all of that. So actually we use something called the Shuco System when we're building our advertising. So the Shuco System is basically, we have the creative, which is based on the AIDA and RACE models, get those people interested. So that nice, lovely stuff that we all see all over social media, the fun stuff. And then we then go into the build of an advertising campaign. So the lovely back end of Facebook, which Fran and I have become very familiar with and best friends with. And it's that technical side which people don't see. The building of the audiences, who your target market is, making sure that we're hitting that buyer persona, that correct buyer persona. So it's something we walk you through with, I suppose, when you're like looking at your overall sales and marketing plans. It's like, who are we selling to? Making sure we're talking to the right audience. We go off and we tell Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. because we do TikTok ads as well now, where to go and find those people that you want to go and talk to so they can see those ads. You know, every time you click on a website and then all of a sudden you log back into your social media platforms, we are the people that make that happen. And then the data, that is crucial. So when we talk about marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads, at the end of the day, it's all about money in the bank and return on investment from that campaign. Nobody wants to just see pretty pictures on Facebook and people clicking on a website. They want people to take action. It's having a good ad with good call to actions on there, or CTAs, alongside a really good landing page with good call to actions on there, whether they're lead magnets that you can download off the website in return for a email address, whether it's a phone number, whether it's a booking link on your website so they can book a meeting straight into your diary, or if it's just as simple as just booking onto a webinar or an event. All that needs to be measured and tracked. It needs the reach and the impressions, and just landing are just very fluffy stats. Engagement is very fluffy. They're just vanity stats. I've got a client at the moment who said, I don't have anyone commenting on my post. Are they actually buying from you? Oh, yes, but I don't see any comments. The comments buy, you really, less is more. It's not all about your following on social media. You want those people to be engaged. You want them to be buying from you. You want that money in the bank. At the end of the day, we're not in business to just have fluffy stats and fluffy pictures on social media. We are there to make money. And that is the importance of the data, because once you've looked at that data, if it's not working, then it's time to optimize and go back to that particular campaign and see what isn't working and why it isn't working. So that's when the time is, you go and talk to the rest of your team. So data analysis is hugely important right now, and it's getting even bigger because there's so much competition out there. So yeah, it's important to evaluate your campaigns. So make sure that data is being measured and tracked. Make sure you record everything and report back to whoever you're reporting into, whether that's your marketing director, your MD, or is it yourself because you're working in a micro business. That's really important, and to have a look at what's going on. And if you do need to report back, remember, data is quite a tricky thing, and people do need that visual aid, graphs or images to present that data, because it, you know, looking at an Excel spreadsheet with a load of numbers in there trying to track your campaign isn't going to help you. You need to use that data and manipulate it the right way. Okay, so yeah, get social with us, obviously. You can join us, follow us on Instagram. We've even have a TikTok account that you can jump onto. We have other webinars on our YouTube channel that you can sort of follow. Between Chris and I, we do quite a lot. There's our website there, and Fran, and then obviously connect with us all on LinkedIn as well. But we're going to open the floor up now to questions. We'll stop recording, so you don't have to worry about that when it's on our YouTube channel.